Lord, I know for me, that's how I feel this morning. I feel like I was blind, but now I can see again. I've been a Christian, Lord, for, since I was a kid, raised in the faith. But Lord, I really see again today. Father, I ask that for every person that is in this room, for every person that listens to this message, that they would be in awe. They would be awestruck. They would almost be overwhelmed. They would be terrified, but they would be so captivated at the same time by your beauty, by your grandeur, by your majesty. I thank you, the cosmic creator, that on your cosmic canvas, you've been painting a picture for everyone to see, for all the centuries, through all the ages. And now, for the first time, we are seeing things that no human eye has ever laid eye upon before. Oh Lord, we are awestruck. Father, I ask that you do something well beyond the information that your people are going to hear this morning. I ask that you give people a spirit of wisdom and revelation. We don't want to just be enthralled and enraptured with the picture. We want to be enthralled. We want to be captivated with the artist who made the picture. Oh Father, I ask that that would happen today. You've lit me on fire with your word, Lord, and I just ask that it would invade every heart in this room. Do what you can do, Spirit of the living God, that only you can do. Have your way in this place. On this hot summer day outside, may it get even hotter in here. Do all these things in the precious name of Jesus Christ, who died on the hill at Calvary 2,000 years ago. May we not forget the cosmic story that you've been telling. Amen. I do. I feel a special. I feel a special weight as a minister here this morning, and you don't hear me talk like this a lot. I don't usually highlight and go on, realm and talk about the things that I'm going to preach about. I did it 2 weeks ago. This is something that, in conversation with Megan during the week, earlier in the week, I was all set to finish the life of Joseph, where we've been in for some time and, skipping a week here and there. But that was really where I was headed. And then something happened, and you're going to hear about that. The title of this sermon is taken from a book. None of the sermon is really from the book. I have one quote. It's a very scientific book, but the title of the sermon is The Privileged Planet. It so resonated with me, this title. This is something, again, you never hear me talk like this, but I really hope this is something you'll share with friends and people that aren't even Christians. Right? I want atheists. I want agnostics. I want pantheists. I want people that are secular humanists. I want them to hear not what I have to say, but what God has to say. Right? And I hope that you'll be brave enough to do that. And I want to start with a name and see how many of you, and I have notes all over the place. I mean, I am more nervous than, I don't know, any sermon that I've preached in recent memory. I really am. But I don't remember the last time I was this excited, to get up and feel like I really had something to say about his word and just who he is. I really feel like I became a Christian again. I don't know if that, I don't know if that makes any sense. But that's how I feel. And I'm a minister. I feel like for the first time I really can see. So I hope you just get some of that here this morning. I'll get into it because I have a lot to share. I'm shaking. How many times I've preached and how many times I've been on my feet to speak and just feel it. I don't know how many of you ever heard the name before, Thurl Ravenscroft. Anybody ever heard that name before? Probably not. You have. You know the name. Wow, I'm impressed. I didn't know the name. I read the story and thought it was really interesting. He is the voice behind a lot of, by the way, the children are all staying here today. So if you're wondering, I knew. A lot of times I get it wrong and I forget to release them. But I knew this Sunday that they would be staying in. Well, getting back to this name, Thurl Ravenscroft, he was the voice for a lot of the Disney movies, animation in the 50s and the 60s. And how many of you know The Grinch That Stole Christmas? You know, listen, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch, right? And all the kids, you love that. And he's the voice behind that. But this is what he's really well known for. That's an artist picture. He is the voice behind the Frosted Flakes advertisement. He is Tony the Tiger. And let's see if y'all know it. Let me see how many of you parents fed your kids garbage for breakfast. They're great. Wow, that was pretty good. I heard in the back over there. They're great. That's what this guy is really known for. At the end of the day, I don't know if that was like the epitaph on his like tombstone or anything like that, but this is what he was really known for at the end of the day. And what really captured me was just the word great. Now, Frosted Flakes, right, or any cereal, you know the coolest thing about cereal? I don't eat stuff like that. I don't recommend that you feed your kids Frosted Flakes, right? I remember I'm still scarred. Jen and I, my sister and I are still scarred. Anytime there was cereal in the house as a kid, my brother would eat it all. So it was like a mad race to like try, right? You try to get some of it, and Jen would hide it. Cookie Crisp, that was her favorite. And we would hide that. But I love like and you know this, right? The sugary milk that is left over after, right? You eat all the cereal that's in the bowl, and you just wait for that, and you drink that, and that's like mother's milk, and you just love it, right? It's incredible. We say it's great. Did you know that the word great is voted time and time again as one of the most overused words in the English vocabulary? Probably didn't know that, right? And I was geeking out on this. I'm reading all, articles about this. It always is in the top 5 of the most overused words. And we use it like you say, I had a great meal. We had a great meal last night. That was a great meal, right? Or that was a great game. Or we talk about something the size of like a meteorological event. That was a great earthquake that hit. Somebody's in great pain. But I would say here this morning that we need to reserve the word great and go back to the origins and the genesis of that word, pun intended, because that word really describes the God of the universe. And that's what you're here, that's what I'm here to really talk about. Look what the Bible is replete with passages. I only have 39 slides this morning, all right? So I really cut it down. I'm not kidding you. I have 39 slides. And the Bible has so many passages that talk about the greatness of God. Look at this one, number 1, right? The psalmist says, but may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who long for your saving help always say, the Lord is great. For great is the Lord, and most worthy of praise is he to be feared above all gods. Look at what the prophet Jeremiah says. There is none like you, O Lord. You are great, and great is your name in might. Great is our God. And we sang that here this morning. And what really piqued my curiosity and my imagination, and there's always, listen, any preacher, and you're in a church where Pastor Linda really, with Pastor Joe, they led the church for many years, but she really carried the pulpit, and you have no idea the strength that is behind the scenes of the person that lives with the person that carries the pulpit, right? And whether watching him, my father, do it, and then being married to somebody that does it, when this woman speaks a lot of times, I know God is speaking to me through her. So when she said to me this week, and we just started to talk about, how many of you saw the images from the Webb telescope being sent back? A lot of you, some of you haven't seen, some of you have. Okay, well, hopefully you're gonna be awestruck like I was and I am by what we are seeing in the universe for the very first time. But I thank her because when we had the conversation and she's like, you should do something on that. And I'm like already halfway through with where I knew I was going, and I was in the zone with where I was going. So I was comfortable with where I was taking Joseph. And you meant it for evil, but God used it for good. I finally made it to the point I wanted to make it to in the story that every preacher just jumps to. And I've built this mother up for a long time, right? And I'm right here. I'm ready to go. And then it's like God was like, no, you're going to do this. And do you realize I could have saved this kind of sermon for a time when I knew the church would be more crowded? I'm not doing that. I don't care. I didn't care if there were 5 people in this room today. I didn't care if I was by myself today. I was preaching this. I'm being serious with you. That's how excited I am about this. But the Webb telescope, oh gosh, where do I start? Where did I put my thing? All right, the Webb telescope. This is an artist rendering of the James E. Webb telescope. And the story behind this is crazy. You know how much this project was? $10 billion. You know how long this project was in existence? 30 years. The original budget for the project was, here's another picture of it, another artist rendering. The original budget was $1 billion. Now, you may have heard in 1990, NASA launched you're going to get a lot of information today. You can't possibly catch all of this. You can't do the best that you can, and if you enjoy it, maybe go listen to it again. I don't know, right? But for me, I'm pouring over information, trying to winnow all this down, so I get it. You should feel that way by the end, like, wow, that was a lot. But I hope by the Spirit of God you catch it. So, $1 billion was the original budget. Over budget, $10 billion. There are so many times during the 30 years that they were ready to just give up on this. Give up on it. It is the largest observatory, largest telescope that has ever been invented in mankind. It is 100 times more powerful, 100 times more powerful than the Hubble telescope, which launched in 1990. Do you know when this is on? Now get this now, hear this. Do you know when the Webb telescope was launched in South America? On Christmas Day last year. You tell me that's not interesting as a Christian, that when myriads of people around the planet are celebrating the birth of the Savior of Jesus Christ, that God came to man, man was trying to go into the heavens and launching this? How crazy is that? And you see, oh, by the way, the sun shield on the Webb telescope, SPF, 1.5 million. Crazy. Think about that when you're actually like putting the sunscreen on. I need 50. I need the 50, right? The Irish people, you need the 50, right? 1.5 million. So powerful the sun is. Christian NASA administrator Bill Nelson. This is what he said. He said, the James Webb Space Telescope will open up secrets of the universe that will be stupendous, if not almost overwhelming. It will enable us to take a quantum leap of understanding who we are, how we got here, what we are, and how did it all evolve. How right he is. And this is something that we want to take we're going to get a quantum leap of understanding. He mentioned that too. And I find that interesting. That is precisely what Christmas claims to reveal as well. A quantum leap of understanding about the world that we live in. Are you ready for a few pictures from the Webb telescope that were delivered to us? NASA sending them to us. And of course, we are in a church building and you're looking at it on a screen. Some of you have looked at it on your phones. You looked at it on your desktop. So take that into consideration, right? When you see these, this is number one, the first picture I want to show you. This is Stephan's quintet. There are 5 galaxies that you see here before you. They are about 300 million light years away from us. A cosmic dance kind of driven by gravitational force. I am not an astronomer. I am not a scientist. I am a preacher. I'm a historian. So don't, if I get something wrong science-wise, have a little bit of, right, understanding, have a little bit of sympathy that I don't have a degree in science, right? Okay, making sure you know that. Please don't email me, come up to me after. You got that one fact? Yeah, that's great. I did. I got it wrong, right? Yeah, okay. You actually will see there, does this thing even have, I don't know if it does, maybe not like a pointer. Does it have a pointer on it? Maybe it does. I don't want to hit something and get it wrong. Thanks for the lights, I appreciate it. but you see maybe on my right side here, like with the red and orange material, that is gas and dust that is like colliding together, and these galaxies are actually colliding together, and they're creating more stars. So, I mean, for the first time, we have never seen, and the beauty of the Webb telescope, what the Hubble telescope couldn't do is, it could not see through all of the gas and dust that was in space. So now we can actually get a picture of some of this. Oh, do you see on the top right, where the snowflake structure on the top right? That is actually, the snowflake structures are actually stars in our galaxy. There are other galaxies and other stars that are millions and millions and millions and millions of miles away, right? And this is just in the observable universe that, what we can see as human beings, and how much more is really out there. So that's number one. Get ready for number two. All right, I mean, the colors are just incredible. This is a planetary nebula, or actually it's the Southern Ring Nebula. And a nebula is a giant cloud of gas and dust that is in space, right? Because I know y'all can't leave here unless you know that, right? So a giant cloud of gas and dust that is in space there. This is the Southern Ring one. Now, what are you looking at? See the middle over here? In this picture right here, you see the bright star? That is a dying star. For the first time in the history of humanity, we are able to see in space like this, in the Southern Ring Nebula, a dying star that is shooting out waves of matter. And only for centuries, in the history of the world, only God saw this. Now we as human beings are gifted to be able to, privileged to see what God is actually doing, never revealed before. This one's my favorite, though. I saved my favorite for last. Oh. This is the Carina Nebula. These are actually the cosmic cliffs of the Carina Nebula. And again, this is a nearby star-forming region that is in our own Milky Way galaxy. You see that, by the way, there are scientists in NASA. I read so much this week and listened to so many interviews. I can't tell you how many times I read and heard someone say that there are, engineers and astronauts and just scientists, really smart people that don't believe in God, but were so overwhelmed by what they saw in these pictures that many were driven to tears, crying over what they are seeing. And I want to tell us here this morning that eternity is set in the heart of men, that it's God, the Creator, is painting a picture and letting us as human beings see. There are jets, and there are cavities in the bottom of the picture. There are things that scientists don't even know what they are in this picture. But you see the gas and the dust in the bottom of the picture that is creating more stars. Billions and billions of stars are being created in this beautiful area that is in the Milky Way galaxy. Do you realize the Milky Way galaxy that we are in? It is they estimate there are 300 billion galaxies. We estimate because nobody knows, and we are in this one little galaxy. Did you know we're not in the center, by the way, of the Milky Way galaxy? I'm going to get to this in a little bit. We're not. We're like 2/3 of the way. We're not in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. I'm going to make you feel really small this morning. Really small, because we need to. We think we're so much bigger and so much greater than we actually are, and then you see stuff like this, and you're like, wow, right? I mean, it's just so true. But this one was my favorite. Going back to the NASA administrator, again, he's a Christ follower, right? So I thought it was really cool. He said, the promise of Webb, the telescope, is not what we know we will discover. It's what we don't yet understand or can't yet fathom about our universe. May God continue to be revealed more and more in comets, exoplanets, and galaxies through Webb for many years to come. I can't wait to see what it uncovers. How many of you are with me? You can't wait to see what it's actually going to uncover. Well, you should be as a Christian. God is speaking. He is speaking through his creation to us. Now, can I give you another picture, just a few more here, of things in the galaxies? You enjoying this? If somebody falls asleep next to you, you have my permission to wake them up today. Normally, I wouldn't, but today you have my permission. Let me show you this. This is another one. Again, these look fake. These look like fake pictures. This is actually from the original. This is the Hubble telescope. This is the Whirlpool Galaxy, which is one of astronomy's galactic darlings. And it's in there in the middle, and it's curled up, and you see there the beauty of that, the grandeur of that. You see here that there's an abundance of supernovas or star explosions that are taking place right in this. How cool is this? And in this, right, what I find about these star explosions, things that we're only finding out, they say it's one of the brightest and most picturesque galaxies that can be seen from planet Earth. I told you, right, with the sheer amount of galaxies that are in the universe. And you know what bothers me a little bit? Anybody the show? It's on what do we watch on the History Channel? Alone. Anybody know that show Alone? You watching season 9? Dude, how crazy is that? Should we just continue to have a conversation while everybody doesn't know what we're talking about? It's 10 people that are put out in the middle of, where are they? Like in Newfoundland, somewhere. Like in one of the most inhospitable places on the planet. There are a plethora of polar bears and black bears, and you kind of have to live off the land, right? So I love that because listen, I'm going to be on I didn't tell you, I'm going to be on season 10 because I would do really well if you put me out in the wilderness for a long period of time. My brother-in-law is shaking his head. I would probably be dead within 2 or 3 days, maybe. I wouldn't make it too long, maybe a day. All right. Well, on the show, listen, if you haven't seen the show, that's a free plug for it. But in the show, this is what I couldn't believe. I'm marveling at it as I'm watching the season right now. And you got beavers and, insane. These guys are crazy what they can do. So I keep seeing people, they'll catch an animal, and then they'll just kind of look up, and they're like, thank you, universe. Thank you, land. Thank you, animals. And I sit there, and I'm like, don't they realize that there is a creator that is behind all of this? It's kind of like, here's what I'm thinking about it all week. If I was to paint a picture of Naeem, give me a piece of paper. I can't paint well, but I will try, and I'll paint a picture. Do you understand when we're talking about God, you need the whole universe, a cosmic canvas to see who he is? Do you realize, catch this, God's world and the whole universe is a representation and a picture of who he is. And so many people miss it. I want to tell these people, it's the creator. Stop falling in love with the creation. It's pointing to someone. It's pointing to him. And look at what he's done. Look at what he's given us on his landscape. It's a universe-sized canvas. Look what the psalmist says. He says, the heavens proclaim the glory of God. The skies display his craftsmanship. Day after day, they continue to speak. Night after night, they make him known. That word heavens in Hebrew, it is the atmosphere. That is the sky. And I see these contestants on the show, and they're so enthralled with nature and the stars, and they sit there and they're alone, or they see a beautiful animal, or they see beautiful trees, a beautiful sunrise. And they're there, and I'm like, yeah, it's because God is speaking. The sky, the atmosphere, the heavens are proclaiming the glory of God and who he is. It's visible. We can see it. How about this? Look what it says in Romans, right? It says in Romans 1:20, you got it. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are not without excuse. He's speaking. When somebody goes, I can't see God. I just want to see him. Why can't he just show up? And I'm like, he just showed up in the sunrise. He just showed up in the sunset. Take out a microscope. Take out a telescope. Look at your kids. Look at your spouse. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. He's speaking all the time. But God is so much bigger than we have any idea. The God who is invisible wants to make his glory known in a visible way. And how does he do it? The world that we live in. The universe. What does it say in Genesis? What does it open with? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then what does it say after? What did God say? Let there be light. I have so many numbers in my head, and I feel like I was studying for an exam this week. Have you ever seen me study this hard for a sermon before? I've studied hard for sermons. This is like different. Like coming in, I feel like I'm getting observed too. I got science people in the room, and it's like, okay. And this phenomenal moment. Now, light came out of the mouth of God, traveling. Get this now, 186,000 miles a second. That's how fast, and many of you have heard that before, that's how fast light is traveling through the universe. So if you take that for a given year, do the math, that's 5.88 trillion miles. That's a light year. That's 5.8 trillion, 5.88 trillion miles in a year. That's how much light is traveling. And some of your heads are ready to explode, right? Because that's what mine is. Yeah, it should. It should. You should be overwhelmed by all of this. So 5.88. That's just, we have, where is it? I have like a tape, we use like tape measures and rulers and yardsticks. How far away is it? Can you measure this? As Megan and I are house here, we're like measuring stuff. How do you measure stuff like this? How do you measure an infinite God, an eternal God, a transcendent God, an omnipotent God, an omniscient God? How can you measure him? Not easy. Then how about the sun? Let's look at this. Can we look at the sun? Look at how fierce the sun is. The temperature, Jay, of the sun, right? Because you're not going to learn this in science. Your dad's going to teach you this. On the surface of the sun, yeah, that's right. On the surface of the sun, the temperature is 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I didn't know it was that hot there. I learned that myself. It is 93 miles away from us. 93 miles away. So, ready? Huh? Whatever. So you know what I meant. 93 million. Yeah. I told you earlier, I'm not going to get all my stats right. But I need the science guy who's observing me to make sure I'm on my game. You know what? We talked before, and I said, hey, Christian, I just want to make sure that you're on your game. So when I start preaching, I want to see what mistakes you need to tell me when I say something wrong. How about this? This is crazy. How long so light traveling at 186,000 miles a second, it takes 8 minutes for light to get from the sun to hit your skin in Middle Island, New York. 8 minutes. 8 minutes. I'm just getting warmed up, by the way. I'm loving this. Some of you are like, I'm never coming back again. Look what the psalmist says in 33:6. He says, by the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and I love this, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. Speaking this out, speaking things into existence. He said, let there be light, and there was light, and it was traveling at 186,000 miles per second. That is your God. Now, let's talk about the size of the sun, and let's look at some of the other planets that you see there. You see the sun that is there, right? So I want you to imagine this. If the earth were the size of a golf ball, all right, try to wrap your head around this, and the sun was 15 feet in diameter. You with me? So earth is the size of a golf ball. The sun, and I don't know, Joe, I wanted to I don't know, I was going to be like, what is 15 feet? Just imagine, 15 feet's pretty big, 15 feet in diameter. And this is the size of earth. I want you to see the size of the sun. You ready for this? You could fit 960,000 Earths inside of the sun, right there. And many preachers have illustrated this. It's not one. I've heard multiple people do it, but it's important that you hear this. 960,000 Earths fit inside of a 15-foot radius of what the sun would be. Are you kidding me? That is enough to fill up a school bus. That is how big our sun is. It is the only star, right, in our planetary system right here. It's the only one, right? There are myriads of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, but, and it just kind of happened that way by chance. Just by chance, these things that I'm telling you today, they just happened. They just happened. So this is, to get an idea of that, I just wanted to put so 93 million miles away. 8 minutes, I said that to you. It's I didn't tell you, 1 million times the size of the Earth. In showing you the golf ball, right? If the Earth was the size of a golf ball, said that, it's just one of billions of stars in our Milky Way galaxy, but it is the lone star in our planetary system here, in our solar system. It's the only one. But again, that just kind of happened, right? Evolution. He said he made the stars also. We see that in the first book of the Bible, in Genesis. How about the Earth itself? Just take a look at look at her. Look at how beautiful she is. There she is, planet Earth. We are sitting on a ball that is, the core is made of magma lava, right? The core. It's suspended in midair. You're traveling right now at 1,000 miles per second. You feel like you're traveling at 1,000 miles per second? No. We're traveling around the sun, I thought, at 67,000 miles per hour. I meant spinning at 1,000 miles per hour before. But we're spinning around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. And we fly around the sun. Do you feel anything? But yet, this woman takes me to Disney World. And if I have to go on the teacup ride, I'm going to blow lunch. I'm going to throw up after I do it. Oh, I feel it then when I'm moving. But how is it that you and I live in a world that we're moving at 1,000 miles per hour? We're rotating around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour, and we don't even feel it, and the planet is suspended in midair. Our God is amazing. We just kind of miss it. This is from The Privileged Planet. This was the best quote I got from the book. He said, simply stated, the conditions allowing for intelligent life on Earth make our planet strangely well-suited for viewing and analyzing the universe. Mounting evidence suggests that the conditions necessary for complex life are exceedingly rare, and that the probability of them all converging at the same place and time is minute. You know what this is called? And I don't want to talk over everyone's. I love this stuff. Apologetics, a defending of the faith. There has been so much research as of late about the fine-tuning of the universe, that if things were just off by a minute little detail here and there, we would not exist now. And if there is fine-tuning of the universe, that means there is a fine-tuner that is behind all of it. And people miss it. And let me show you. Can I show you? This is a picture, right, of all the planets, right, in our solar system. And you see where the third rock from the sun, okay? And you see where we are. If we were a little bit right toward the sun, it would be too hot. If we were a little bit away, just not much, a little bit away, it would be too cold for us to live, for there to actually be life. Do you know what we're in? You know what scientists call this? The Goldilocks zone. That's what we are. That's what it's called where we are. And these are scientists that don't even believe in God. We just happen to be in the Goldilocks zone, this perfect little spot that man can live, but you can't live anywhere else. But you can live right here in the Goldilocks zone. How about Jupiter? Can I give you a little bit more? How about Jupiter right there? It's a large planet, right? Well, let's take a closer view. Did you know that God created the world and the universe? And in our solar system, the planet Jupiter has a gravitational pull. It pulls all comets and asteroids, it pulls them in so they don't hit planet Earth. Saturn does the same thing. You see the spots that are there? Those are comets and asteroids that were pulled in, and they're larger than the size of our Earth. And you tell me God doesn't exist. He exists. Now I'm going for it because you're with me on that one. When you look at the gravitational force, right? If we took a tape measure, I thought this was mind-blowing. If you stretched it across the entire known universe, and at a certain inch mark, somebody take this. Bob, just take this. Let's play a little game. All right, let's play a little game. I don't know, how far does a tape measure go? I should know, but I don't, okay? So if we stretched it, now I want you to imagine this is the entire known universe. I am just talking about the gravitational pull. It's not measured in inches, okay? I get that. But if you were to move the gravitational pull by 1 inch either way, we would not be here today. Did you hear what I said? Anywhere in the entire universe with over 350 billion galaxies, if you were to move the gravitational pull just 1 little inch, we're not here. God was perfect when he created everything. People miss it. You know what this kind of reminds me of? How many of you have read the book of Job, one of my favorite books in the Bible, right? And why it's one of my favorite books, it's a book about suffering. It's a book about a character, Job, right? I always like to say there are 2 stages in the book of Job. There is a stage that is down below that human beings can see what is happening. But there is another stage, and the humans can't see what's happening. It's God, and he's talking to the enemy, and Satan comes in, and he's talking, and Satan's like, he'll curse you. Let me touch his family. Let me take things from him, and then he's not going to bless you. He's going to curse you. And they're going through this whole thing, and there is Job. As you move toward the end of the book, he starts asking questions to God. And then in chapter 38, I put before you some of the greatest material in the entire Bible. Just start in Job chapter 38, where the Message Bible says that God comes to Job, and he comes in a violent storm, and he says to him, Job, right? Who confuses the issue? He says, pull yourself together, up on your feet, stand tall. I have some questions for you, and I want straight answers. Where were you when I created the earth? Right? Where were you, Job? You can change that for me, because for some reason it's not changing. Where were you when I created the earth? Come on, Job, tell me. Tell me, Job, you know so much. That's what the Message Bible says. Tell me, since you know so much, who decided on its size? Certainly you know that. Job, who figured out all the measurements and all the blueprints? Who poured the foundation and set the cornerstone as the morning stars sang together and the angels shouted for joy? Job, who took charge of the ocean as it gushed forth like a baby from the womb? That was me. And I set a playpen for it, a strong playpen, so that it could run wild. Come on, Job, tell me, do you know any of this? I wrapped it in soft clouds, and I tucked it in safely at night. And I said, your wild tantrums are confined to this place. Did you ever talk to the morning? Did you ever tell dawn when to go to work? Huh? Come on, Job, tell me. Job, did you ever get to the true bottom of things? Hey, Job, tell me, do you know about the deep caves in the ocean? Tell me, Job, you must know about that. Job, tell me, where does light come from? Did you ever take light and darkness by the hand and lead them home? You've known them your entire life. You grew up in the same neighborhood as them. Hey, Job, hey, tell me this. Have you ever been able to catch the eye of the beautiful Pleiades sisters? Have you ever gotten Venus to look your way? Did you ever catch Orion stop working? Did you ever distract him? Job, tell me, do you know the first thing about all the constellations in the sky and how they affect things here on earth? Tell me, Job, even if you have an answer, speak up. He goes on, listen. I could just keep going. Job, do you know about death and where it comes from and its dark mysteries? Tell me, Job. And he goes on about flamingos, and he talks about bears, and he talks about hail, and he talks about snow, and he talks about thunder, and he talks about lightning, and he talks about horses, and he talks about the Leviathan and the behemoth, and he goes on. Job, do you want to bring me into court? Am I on trial here, Job? One of the greatest passages in the entire Bible. And it didn't work out the way we wanted to. I had music, and listen, can I tell you what I'm going to do? This is just a precursor. It haunts me. I am memorizing the full 4 chapters. I am making slides and visuals and sound effects, and I'm just going to pop it on you one day, and I'm just going to walk in, and that's going to be my sermon. That's going to be my sermon, because God gave that to me, and she can tell you a couple of years ago, I can tell you the place that I got it, and I've been disobedient in doing it, and everything that came out this past week, I'm like, I have to start doing this and get this out, because I'm so overcome by what the words are in there, and God speaking, and we have questions about God, and why things happen, and what about this, and what about that, and he speaks to Job, and he speaks to us that he is God, the maker of the universe. How about what the psalmist says? I had all my pictures. I had it all with music, and it's all right. I'll just do it again. I'll do it again. But look what the psalmist says. 139. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. You, my friends in here this morning, are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are marked by majesty. You are one of 7.7 billion people on this golf ball sized planet Earth that is marked by majesty, because you and I are created in his image. We are image bearers of this great God who says, you are my prized creation. I have created you. Teddy Roosevelt, the great president, he was a naturalist. I'm a huge fan of Teddy Roosevelt. He was a bit of a wild man. Well, there's a story, his naturalist friend that you can see there on his left or right, whatever view that you have right there. His naturalist friend, his name was William Beebe. They would routinely go outside after dinner, and they'd look up at the night sky. And this is what they said. They would say this together every time they were together. This is the spiral galaxy of Andromeda. It is as large as our Milky Way. It is one of 100 million galaxies. That's what they thought at the time. It is 750,000 light years away. It consists of 100 billion suns, each larger than our sun. Then he would pause, he would look at his friend, he would smile, and he'd say, now I think we feel small enough. Let's go to bed. So good. Somebody that understood the size of the God that we love, the size of the God that we're here to worship and exalt here this morning. I'm moving. I'm almost done. No, I'm not. How about us being fearfully and wonderfully made? You got a few minutes in you? Can you stand strong? All right. When you look at us being fearfully and wonderfully made, and this was hard, I'm just trying to pick, I can make this a series. Because there's just so many different things to talk about how he's made us and how we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and all the different examples from the universe and in nature and the galaxies that are out there. If scientists took your DNA, right? And this is, to me, this was absolutely stunning. And they looked at it under a microscope. They took one cell. I'm talking one cell from your DNA, just one, right? It would stretch out 6 feet long. It would be a total of 3 billion characters, and that's one cell. Did you just hear what I said? One cell, right? 3 billion characters if they stretched it out. If you were to read your DNA, every character, every second and day, right? A second of day and night, it would take 96 years just to read the full description of who you are, every single person in this room. Did you hear what I said? It would take 96 years to read your full DNA if you sat down day and night and did not stop. And every single person's DNA in this room is different. That is how great your God is. There's so much DNA in your body that if it was stretched out from end to end, there'd be enough DNA to go to the moon and back 178,000 times. 178,000 times. Man, we are a privileged people. How about this? God created things that are called peptides, right? Peptides. That's what this is a picture of right here. And these are essential building blocks. When they join other chemicals, they help make a cell. And as we know, cells are, right, a core part of every living being. Now, this to me was, I couldn't believe this either, that there are an estimated 37.2 trillion cells in your body. 37.2 trillion cells estimated in your body right now. Right, and cells are dying, right? Millions and millions of cells are dying. And there are different types of peptides, each with a special role, some to help your muscles grow and repair, some to send messages throughout the body, but they're so tiny they can't be seen without a mega powerful microscope. Now that, and then you take it to, look at this number, right? You know how many zeros are there? You ready for this? There are 40 zeros. Let me tell you what this actually means. Each peptide is made of 2 or more chemical components called amino acids, right? Which have to be joined, and it's staggering, in just the right way to create the variety of peptides our bodies need to function properly. The chances of this happening by accident are about 1 in 10 duodecillion. That is 1 with 40 zeros after it. Does that sound impossible? Not with our God, because that's how powerful He ultimately is. Are you kidding me? How about this one? I promise we're really getting to a close. This is a baby that is in a womb. This is 5 months, right? In the birth cycle, 5 months. Miracles are happening every moment, right? And I was literally crying when I read this. Remember the good old days when you were in the womb, by the way? Remember those days? Good old days, right? There are, get this, there are 1 million optic nerve endings that leave, at 5 months, that leave the optic nerve center of your brain in the womb. They meet up with 1 million optic nerves in your left eye and your right eye. So what am I telling you? 1 million are looking for 1 million. They have to find their exact partner and match up together so that you ultimately can see. And you tell me that happened by chance. You tell me that it happened just by circumstance and chance, that the world that you live in is here. That is absolutely impossible, and that is only one of the many astounding miracles that happens in the womb. I don't need to talk about Roe versus Wade. I don't need to talk about abortion. I don't need to talk about if you're pro-life or you're pro-choice. I don't care what you are, right? I'm not getting into that. What I do care about is the God who creates people inside of the womb, that you were fearfully and wonderfully made, and the miracle of life that happens. That's all I care about. Don't be confused. The great Augustine, I don't know if my last slide there, the great Augustine, he said this, one of the fathers of the church, he said this in Confessions, he nailed it. He said, men go abroad to wonder at the height of mountains, the huge waves of the sea, the long course of rivers, the vast compass of the ocean, the circular motion of the stars, but they pass by themselves and they don't even notice. Realize what you're looking at when you look at in the eyes of another human being? Do we have any idea what we're looking at and what we see? We have any idea what we see? The majesty, the majestic majesty, how we were created. So I'm talking about planets, and I'm talking about galaxies, and I'm talking about nebula and all that amazing stuff. But what about us as human beings, as prized creation? The whole message this morning is pointing to the Creator. Don't fall in love with His creation. Go back to, that's where this is all bringing me. The pictures from the Webb telescope, all the different galaxies, they make me fall deeper in love with the artist who has created this cosmic canvas for us to look at. And we're only seeing an infinitesimal piece of all of the galaxies and everything that He has ultimately created. He is an unlimited, unending, transcendent God. So many people miss it. I appreciate the portrait. I appreciate it. I appreciate the beauty, but I want to know the artist. That's the point of my message this morning. Don't fall in love with creation. Fall in love with the Creator. Do you realize how privileged you are, and I am, to be alive on this planet today as human beings, breathing in oxygen, and we get to worship Him? Nowhere else in the universe. And I know you may say there's aliens, and I'm not getting into any of them, please. All right, I'm talking about what we know. Is there life out there? I'm not getting into any of that. Pastor Linda can. We bring it to the table now. We're going to play a song, So Will I. I want you to reflect on what you heard this morning. But I want us all to think this is the end point of the meeting. I want us to think and reflect on what God did, who created the heavens and the earth. And He sent Himself into the world. He sent His Son into the world to be a Savior for mankind. That is the greatest thing that has ever happened in the history of the world. And that's why we end at the table this morning. His body that was broken on that cross 2,000 years ago. His blood that was shed for us. It's a message that speaks and it echoes throughout time for us to remember to stop and reflect on the beauty. Will you stop and reflect on His beauty and His majesty and His grandeur this morning? Watch the video. Talk to God. You don't need, you know what? You don't need to come up. We don't need altar calls every week, right? You can just come into church. You can be where you are in your seat and you can talk to God. You don't need anybody to pray over you. You don't need a word over you. God spoke to you this morning. This was the message. You don't need this was the word that you needed to hear, okay? This is what God, I know it's the word because this is what God told me to do. Take it, digest it, reflect on it, not just today, but for the rest of the week, right? This is what, and if we could play that. Ushers. Lord, as we come before your table, Lord, we're awestruck, Lord, by what you did. That the wood that you were on is the tree.
No point of reference.
The creator of the world.
You spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder.
Here we are as human beings, and we try to make our way out there into the galaxies and see everything that you did. Father, I ask that you would use this.
And as you speak,
I ask that there would be thousands and thousands of people,
100 billion galaxies are born
in some ethereal way. Lord, I ask that
in the vapor of your breath, planet
from your creation, that they would come to know.
And if the stars are made to worship, so
to join with my faith, that God would use this,
I can
and
see
maybe there's a
your
revival
heart
that
in
will take place.
everything
There's not a convergence. I mean, there is a convergence between science and
every
faith.
burning
And Lord,
star,
I ask that
signal
people see it. People that their
fire.
blinders are over their eyes, Lord, open their eyes as only you
If
can do.
creation
Spirit of the living
sings
God,
your praises,
see
so
what you have done,
will
what
I.
you're doing, as this universe is still expanding, as stars are still being born.
God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all names nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. And if it all reveals your nature so alive, I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. And if creation still obeys you, so will I. So will I. So will I. As the stars are made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. And if the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. And if the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sum of all our praises still falls short, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. God of salvation, chase down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. And if you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I. I can see your heart in a billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. And if you gave your life to love them, so will I. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
Privileged planet, a privileged table for a privileged planet. You know, all of this was created, the bride of Christ. All of this